Hi, it's Alaska Granny. One of my favorite kitchen appliances that I use all the time is the Oster bread machine. I was able to find it a few years ago at a thrift store for hardly any dollars, and it has been so handy. I've used it many times. I've baked all different types of breads. I find it to be not only an economical way to have bread, but say you don't want to go to the store, you don't have time, or bread becomes too expensive. You can have your basic baking supplies, you can have supply of yeast in the freezer, and then you can bake bread whenever you need to, as long as the power is on. The only time it didn't turn out was recently. I was baking a loaf of whole wheat bread and the power went out, and then it did continue baking once the power came back on, but the bread just didn't turn out. It was all lumpy looking and didn't taste great. But that's the only not success I've had. So I was looking over the settings, and one of the settings on the Oster bread machine is quick bread. Now I have banana bread recipe that's been in my family for many years. We love it, we bake it all the time. It's very simple. It has basic ingredients. I usually put it into 2 glass loaf pans and bake it in the oven for about 40 minutes, but I thought, let me go ahead and try it. Look at these bananas I have. These definitely are calling out for banana bread. So what are the ingredients in my favorite banana bread recipe? 2 bananas, 2 eggs, 1/2 cup of oil, 1/3 cup of water, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 3/4 cup of flour, and 1 1/2 cup of sugar. I'm going to layer it into the bread machine, putting all of the wet ingredients first and then put the dry ingredients on top. I think it'll help it mix up better that way in the bread machine. I gave the pan a good spray, and I also sprayed the paddle before I inserted it. That'll help it not to stick when you're done. I'm adding the bananas. Nice and soft, just the way we like them. I have the 2 eggs, 1/2 cup of oil, 1/3 cup of water, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 3/4 cup of flour, and 1 1/2 cup of sugar. And now it's ready to go into the bread machine. You don't plug in the bread machine until you have inserted your pan and have everything ready to go. This is so easy. It has these little clips on the side, and you just insert it. It snaps in place. Now you plug it in. Put it on quick bread, press start, and it's mixing and baking for you. It's a little sunken down in there. And you just want to pull up and remove the pan. What I normally do when I bake banana bread in the oven is I set the pan aside for 15 minutes to let it cool before I try to remove it so that it doesn't break apart. So I'm going to do the same thing with this banana bread that I made in the bread machine. I'm going to set it to cool for 15 minutes and then tip it over and see how it pops out. It seems a little sticky, so I'm going to run a knife around it. Maybe I should use a rubber spatula. I'm going to place a board over it, flip it over, stuck. Okay. It definitely stuck, so I would not consider that success. The pan is a lot warmer than when I cook it in, say, a glass dish, because that trick works every time with a glass dish. Maybe I should have allowed it to cool a little more, because it's certainly not beautiful and we wouldn't want to present it to anyone, but maybe we can still eat it. Let's let it cool completely. Now this is the recipe. I usually make 2 loaves in glass loaf pans, but I just did the one in the bread machine. It cooks for a little longer. It's a little more sticky. Maybe it didn't turn out perfect, but I think it's still going to be perfectly delicious. It's a little more caramelized, a little crunchy, but it still has that same delicious banana flavor. So while the banana bread doesn't look exactly beautiful, it did stick in the pan. It wasn't a successful way to make banana bread, but once you really start cutting into it and tasting it, it still tastes pretty darn good. Would I bake it in the bread machine again? Probably not, simply because I know that it's a great recipe. I know that it turns out well in the oven. So if sometimes the recipes we have in the oven don't necessarily transfer over into something like a bread machine. I'm not a food scientist, but I realize that there are certain types of recipes that work better in certain kinds of appliances. So if you have a favorite quick breads, like a banana bread or something, recipe that you have made in a bread machine, share it in the comments so we have tips and ideas and recipes that can help us make better use out of the ingredients we have using the appliances that we have to make our lives more interesting. I still consider the Oster bread machine one of my favorite kitchen appliances, so I'm going to continue to use it to make regular breads. I hope you'll like my video, share it with someone else you think might enjoy it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.